Welcome to the next in our Baptist Basics series. Today we're going to look at stewardship. As I've said before, as Baptists, we believe that the Bible is our main authority and that it shows us God's way for living. And when we look at the Bible for guidance on how to live our Christian lives, we come across the idea of stewardship. In Matthew 25, Jesus introduces the idea of stewardship by telling a parable. A man is going on a journey. Before he leaves, he summons 3 servants and gives each of them a sum of money. And he expects that they will use this money wisely whilst he is gone. 2 of the servants manage to double their investment. But the third, afraid of losing what he had, digs a hole and puts it in the ground. When the master returns, he calls them all to account. Those who put the money to good use are praised and rewarded. But the one who did nothing is called wicked and lazy and is thrown into the outer darkness. So this parable introduces some key aspects of stewardship. Everything we have has been given to us by God. We're not all given the same amount, and we don't all have the same ability. But we are all expected to do something useful with what we have, however much or little. We are all stewards of what we've been given, and ultimately we will be held to account for what we've done with what's been given to us. It's often tempting to think that stewardship is just about money. But the Bible has a much wider view of stewardship. Stewardship is based on the belief that everything belongs to God. That includes our education, our skills, our time, our energy, our thoughts, our influence, our words, our house, our possessions, our family, our money, our job. Everything we have, it all belongs to God, and He has entrusted it to us for a specific purpose. In Matthew 6, verse 33, Jesus tells us not to chase after the things that the world chases after, but rather to seek His kingdom and His righteousness. In other words, our purpose is to use everything God has given us to bring Him glory and to advance His kingdom. So stewardship should shape our approach to the world, the church, and our own lives and possessions. Here are some examples. Psalm 24 says, "The earth is the Lord's and all that is in it." The earth doesn't belong to human beings, it belongs to God. God has given us dominion over it, but dominion doesn't mean exploitation. We can use creation, but not in a way that threatens the well-being and survival of the environment. So as stewards of creation, we're called to be environmentally and ecologically responsible. 1 Corinthians 12 tells us that we all have natural skills, gifts and abilities. We have different gifts and some are more gifted than others, but we are all called to be fruitful. The challenge for us is to decide which gifts we've been given and how we can use them to serve the church and the world. In John 9, Jesus said, "As long as it is a day, we must do the works of Him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work." So we all need to decide how we use our time. That doesn't mean we all need to quit our jobs, but it does mean we need to think about how we use our time and prioritise those things that are important. We need to use our time wisely for God's purposes and for His glory. And Jesus said more about the use of and misuse of wealth than anything else. One time He told a rich man to go sell what you own and give the money to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come, follow me. The rich man was shocked and went away grieving, for he had many possessions. What we do with our money is still an emotive issue, but Jesus requires us to take a radical view of our wealth. We must use it responsibly and for the good of God's kingdom. The Bible gives us some good guidelines. So let's look at a few verses from Paul's letters to the Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 16 verse 2 says, "On the first day of every week, each one of you should set aside a sum of money in keeping with your income, saving it up." 2 Corinthians 8 verse 3 says, "They gave as much as they were able, even beyond their ability." And 2 Corinthians 9 verse 7 says, "Each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver." So these verses tell us that our giving should be regular, personal, planned, proportionate, generous, sacrificial, and joyful. Stewardship is about using everything God has given us to bring Him glory and to advance His kingdom. And as Baptists, we believe this means that the priority for our giving, whether that be our money or time or skills, ought to be our local church and local mission. And as we give to our church, the church on our behalf gives more widely. And this includes regular donations to the Baptist Union to support church mission work across this country and in other parts of the world. So that's an overview of stewardship. Next week, Duncan will finish our Baptist Basics series with a summary of what we've done over the last few weeks, and also a look at the Baptist church in our local area.